Columbia University, which, remember, announced at least 2 days of virtual school, has now gone to finish the year with virtual school. So it's not just the week of Passover or the first 2 days of Passover. There will be no on-campus classes at Columbia University in New York for the rest of the school year, which is about 3 more weeks when you include final exams. So that's how it got so out of control. They don't believe they could get it under control and provide a safe environment for their students to both learn and study before they take their final exams. You wonder, will the students graduating even be able to experience an actual graduation ceremony? I mean, Logan, in a sense, it's kind of like that scary flashback, dystopian flashback to the COVID years.
Yeah, the summers of 2020.
Where you did everything by screen and you no longer could interact with people.
The reality is that that's what we celebrate in America, is dissenting views and protests. And I'm all for having this conversation in a rational way. What I think that the far left has done, though, is they've hijacked this process. And now they're canceling the other side. They're intimidating the other side. They're putting violence against the other side. People don't feel safe. And that means that my voice then doesn't get to be heard because you are intimidating and seeking violence against me and silencing me. That, to me, is where the university president should come down. They should say to these protesters, this is your area. You have to stay in this area to protest. I find nothing wrong with telling people in a public square, you have to stay in this corralled area. Speak up, have any sign you want, don't be violent. But when people walk down the campus, they have a right to avoid you. They have a right, if they feel unsafe, to go around you. And right now, this crowd, this mob is following people, intimidating them, and even starting with violence. This is unacceptable, and the presidents of the universities need to start acting.
Massive arrests yesterday, over 150 at NYU. And we know that because their system broke down after they'd arrested 134, but they still had more arrests there.
A lot more to process.
Columbia, over 100. I mean, again, when you get to these kind of numbers, Logan, you realize you don't know how many of them are actually students, how many of these are agitators. We saw it at Harvard Square, too, had been shut down for protests. You're seeing the buses filled with these arrests. But what we are seeing is a nonstop movement. It may come to a quieter time when these campuses, again, they take about a month off during their winter break. They're definitely not going to be calling it Christmas break at these schools. But what happens when they come back? And by the way, in these major cities, these protesters, I don't even know if they go to these schools.
Right. It's not the same as going to a big campus, what you think of maybe in the Southeast or something like that, or
anywhere
or Notre Dame,
rural.
or anywhere. Yeah, exactly. Where there's just a big college campus. It's not really set up that way. These are city campuses that can be overtaken easily
block the streets
by protesters,
Buildings,
like you said, who may have no affiliation to the school, and that just is what's happening nationwide.
They are blocking buildings. You can't get into class. They are tracking down students who they think are Jewish or heading to, or maybe have a yarmulke on, and they are harassing them and even getting violent. And the arrest, it just seems to me, this is the interesting part about this moment. And we saw it on in the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, this movement in the United States is growing, Rick, and I think it's waking a lot of Americans up to the fact that there's a significant group, not a majority, but a significant group of people in the United States of America who take a view which is very anti-American.
It's a private university. They should be able to shut it down and only allow students on campus or staff members. If you're a professional agitator, which it's clear there are many in these situations, if you're a professional, goer to violence and events, and it doesn't really matter what it is, you just want chaos, and so you cover your face and you create chaos. I don't think that you have a right to be on the university campuses. The university presidents should shut that down. Take IDs. And if you are a student and you want to protest, then you have every right to do that as long as you're not violent.
The sort of glimmer of hope, the silver lining, is when you have a situation like what happened at Google and at YouTube, where they had dozens of their employees protest, and those employees were fired, as they probably should have been, as they were doing a sit-in at their CEO's office. If you have more actual action happening, and where you have big companies saying, look, we don't even care if you're out there protesting, but as soon as you bring it on our property, now we got a problem. That could start solving this, giving a solution really to these over-the-top protests that are happening that are filled with threats.
It's a mess. It's because you could say in the United States, we've had this long discussion throughout our history that you can have anonymous speech. Is this anonymous speech or is this anonymous chaos? I mean, this is, again, is it even a protest at this point? I mean, and that's when you have to start getting into the legal ideas. The fact that when mass amounts of people start being arrested, that's not that's not just civil disobedience, Logan. That is, you came to do violence, you came to injure, right. You came to hurt. Yes, you wanted to bring attention to your issue, but not in a positive way. The interesting thing is, though, Rick, and again, I think it tells us a lot about where our country is and why this election coming up is so important. Because it's like our country, listen, it can go one way or the other. Because I don't think this is not just a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds on these college campuses doing this, but they're certainly going to be influenced by it. And so depending on who our leaders are is going to influence, is this the direction of our country? Is it going to be a pro-Hamas movement inside our college campuses, not just liberal, but pro-Hamas? Or is it going to be a country that understands there will be dissent, understands protest, and can respect that without turning to violence?
That's the issue for me, is the violence. I love free speech and I want people to be able to have it. But when you are creating violence, when you're creating an unsafe environment for others to have their free speech, and clearly there are Jewish students who are feeling intimidated, and they're losing their right, that's unacceptable. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to take someone else's safety away from them.
It's becoming the trendy thing to do on college campuses. And we see
at least to be anti-Israel.
Or at least, again, it may be a small group of people, but they are a small group of people that are very loud.
Very loud, very violent, and can shut down a campus in a day.
Right, can take down Columbia University.
In one day.
To just not only say, hey, we're calling it for the day, hey, we're calling it for a week, we're calling it for the rest of the semester. And the rest of the semester, we're going to remote learning, essentially, like Jordan said, like back in the early COVID times. That is what's happening on these college campuses because they're being overtaken and they don't know what to do. I think that's obviously a problem too. And we need to actually come up with help them maybe with some guidelines of what they can do to protect their student body, because this can't be the way it is from now on. If there's a divisive issue, we can take over your company, we can take over your school, shut it down. It just can't be the way it is.
I didn't see Jews doing this when Ramadan began. Did you see Jewish protesters trying to ruin Ramadan for Muslims in America? No. In fact, they would probably celebrate alongside them. But what are they doing? They're ruining Passover for Jews.